The first time I saw my granddaughter in that ICU bed, I did not recognize her. She was 8 years old. Her name was Lucy. And she looked so small beneath the hospital blanket that for one terrible second, I thought they had brought me to the wrong room. A breathing tube rested against her mouth. Bruises darkened one side of her face. Her left arm was wrapped in a cast. Machines blinked around her bed, making soft sounds that felt too calm for a room where a child was fighting to stay alive. I had flown from Denver to Tacoma the moment I got the call. My son Andrew could barely speak through the phone. "Dad," he said, "Lucy fell down the stairs." That was all he told me. A fall. An accident. But when I arrived at St. Anne's Medical Center and saw the nurse's face before she even opened Lucy's door, I knew there was more. My name is Victor Lang. I am 68 years old. I spent 37 years working as an investigator for an insurance fraud unit, which means I learned early that people rarely lie with their words first. They lie with the details they leave out. My son Andrew had been married once before. Lucy's mother, Hannah, died when Lucy was only 3 after a sudden illness. Andrew was shattered. For years it was just him and Lucy in a small house outside Tacoma. Then he met Vanessa Cole. At first she seemed kind. She brought Lucy little gifts, helped decorate her room, posted smiling family photos online. She called Lucy my bonus daughter in front of people. But I noticed things. Lucy became quieter. She stopped talking about school. She flinched once when Vanessa raised her voice across the kitchen. Andrew always explained it away. She's adjusting. She's sensitive. Vanessa is under stress. I let myself believe him because I wanted peace for my son. That was my mistake. When I reached Lucy's ICU room, Andrew was sitting in a plastic chair beside her bed, staring at the floor. He looked exhausted. Not just tired. Destroyed. "Where is Vanessa?" I asked. He rubbed his face. "She left yesterday." "What do you mean, left?" "She said she needed space." I looked at him. "Your daughter is in intensive care." He swallowed. "I know. Where did she go?" He hesitated too long. Then he said, "St. Lucia." For a moment I thought I heard him wrong. St. Lucia. She had a trip planned. A trip planned? My granddaughter was lying unconscious with bruises on her body, and her stepmother had flown to the Caribbean. Andrew handed me his phone. A photo was open on the screen. Vanessa stood barefoot on the deck of a white yacht, wearing sunglasses and a pale blue dress. In one hand she held a champagne glass. Next to her was a man I had never seen before. His arm was around her waist. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to leave chaos behind and choose peace." I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I handed the phone back. "Who is he?" I asked. Andrew looked away. "I don't know." But I did. Not his name. Not yet. But I knew exactly what kind of man he was. The kind who smiles beside someone else's wife while a little girl fights for her life in an ICU. The nurse entered a few minutes later. Her name was Carla Medina. She had tired eyes and the careful voice of someone who had already said too much to too many families. "Mr. Lang," she said quietly, "the doctor will be in soon." I stood. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. "Does this look like a fall?" Her expression changed. Only slightly. But I saw it. She looked toward Andrew, then back at me. "I'm not allowed to speculate." That was enough. I stepped into the hallway and called an old friend from my insurance investigation days. His name was Raymond Foster. He worked private cases now. "Ray," I said, "I need you in Tacoma." "What happened?" "My granddaughter is in the ICU. Her stepmother says she fell." He was quiet for 1 second. Then he said, "Send me the address." By that evening I had learned something that turned my grief into something colder. Lucy had not fallen down the stairs. At least not the way Vanessa told it. The hospital's child protection team had already raised concerns. The bruising pattern did not match a normal fall. There were marks on Lucy's upper arms, marks consistent with someone gripping her hard. And there was one detail Vanessa never mentioned. Lucy had been admitted nearly 2 hours after the alleged accident. 2 hours, a child unconscious, a possible head injury. And Vanessa waited 2 hours before calling for help. Now tell me honestly, would you believe this was an accident after hearing that? Or would you start asking who benefited from calling it a fall? Comment accident if you think people can panic and make terrible mistakes. Comment not buying it if you think the story was already falling apart. The next morning, Raymond met me in the hospital cafeteria. He had coffee in one hand and a folder in the other. "Vanessa is not in St. Lucia alone," he said. I looked up. The man in the photo is Adrian Wells. He owns a small private charter company, divorced twice, several lawsuits. One former business partner accused him of hiding money in offshore accounts. And Vanessa? She has been speaking to him for at least 8 months. He placed printed records on the table. Hotel reservations, messages, flight confirmations, a joint bank transfer. Then one document that made my stomach drop. Vanessa had recently taken out a life insurance policy on Andrew. Not a small one, a $2 million policy. And she had also tried to add Lucy as a beneficiary on a trust connected to Andrew's house. The woman had been building an exit plan, and my granddaughter was standing in the way. I did not confront Vanessa. Not yet. Instead, I called the detective assigned to Lucy's case, Detective Marisol Trent. She was direct, sharp, and did not waste words. I gave her everything. The hospital concern, the 2-hour delay, the photos, the messages, the insurance documents, the yacht. She listened quietly. Then she said, "Mr. Lang, do not contact Vanessa and do not let your son warn her." That was when I knew the ground under Vanessa was already moving. For the next 48 hours, I stayed beside Lucy's bed. Andrew barely left the room. He held her hand, read her stories, apologized to her while she slept. One night around 2 a.m., he looked at me and said, "I should have seen it." I did not answer immediately. Then I said, "You need to focus on seeing her now." He started crying, the kind of crying a father makes when he realizes the danger was inside his own home. On the 3rd day, Lucy opened her eyes, just for a few seconds, but she squeezed Andrew's hand. And when the nurse asked her what happened, Lucy whispered one name, Vanessa. That was all it took. The police contacted St. Lucia authorities through federal channels. Vanessa and Adrian were scheduled to leave the island the next morning. They never made it to the airport. Raymond later told me she was taken from the yacht barefoot. No designer bag, no champagne, no carefully staged photo. Just a woman in a white cover-up, standing on a dock while officers read her rights. By the time she returned to Washington, the evidence had grown. Vanessa had deleted messages, but the messages were recovered. She had searched online for phrases like, "How long after a fall can a child be unconscious?" and "Can accidental injury affect custody?" She had also sent Adrian one message the night before Lucy went to the hospital. "Once Andrew is distracted, everything gets easier." That sentence ended her life as she knew it. Andrew filed for divorce. The insurance company froze the policy investigation. The court issued an emergency protection order. And Vanessa was charged with child abuse, neglect, and attempted insurance fraud. But none of that mattered as much as one thing. Lucy survived. Her recovery took months. Physical therapy, nightmares, long silences. But she survived. And every Saturday I flew back to Tacoma. Or Andrew brought her to Denver. We planted flowers in Hannah's old garden. Lucy picked yellow ones because she said her mother liked sunshine. One afternoon she asked me, "Grandpa, is Vanessa coming back?" I looked at her carefully. "No, sweetheart." Did I do something bad? That question nearly broke me. I knelt beside her and held both her hands. "You did nothing wrong," I said, "nothing. Grown-ups are supposed to protect children. When they fail, that is never the child's fault." She nodded slowly. Then she leaned against me. And I understood something I wish I had learned sooner. Sometimes the people who look happiest in pictures are hiding the ugliest truths. Sometimes a yacht is not freedom. Sometimes it is just a place where a guilty person thinks nobody can reach them. Vanessa thought she had left the chaos behind. She was wrong. The chaos was waiting for her when she came home. And this time it had handcuffs,